All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. I had a patron who asked me about Billy Squier and like what happened to him in the mid '80s, and he was this big deal. And then a lot of people don't know the story behind the whole "Rock Me Tonight" video, and the video didn't really match Billy Squier's personality. It didn't really match his style. He's a guitar slinger, and they have him basically behaving like Prince in this video. And I'm thinking, a lot of people say, well, that was the dumbest thing Billy Squier could have ever done, and he destroyed his career and so forth. Um, I'm going to throw the record company and whoever is the guy's manager at the time under the bus and say, these guys were getting a little greedy because they had this cash cow. His name was Billy Squier, but a majority of his album sales were because of his presence on rock radio, mainstream rock radio. It was a great time to listen to rock stations during the 1980s. The top 40 stations were great, but yours truly, I learned so much more about music and was exposed to tracks that you would not hear on top 40. And that was a real good thing. There was way more variety happening. You weren't getting the same song every 3 hours like you do on top 40. So rock stations, when an album would come out, especially like a Billy Squier album, sometimes the week it came out, you'd hear 2, 3, 4 songs in rotation on a good FM station. But my hunch is that the people over at, was it Capital EMI, whatever, who had Billy Squier said, you know what, this guy, he should be on top 40. And we're going to try like hell to get him over to top 40. And so they come out with this video. And whoever was advising him to do the video said, hey, this is going to break you even bigger. Like Pat Benatar, right? She and Billy Squier kind of on the same trajectory. Started in the early 80s. Pat Benatar, I think, got a bit of an earlier start, 79, and then really started taking off. And Billy Squier had an album called Tale of the Tape in 1980, which only got him a little bit of notoriety. He was in a band called Piper, which the critics loved Piper. If you go back and listen to some of their music, great rock band from the 70s. So Billy had kind of like this launching point after that. And then the hallmark album for Billy Squier is always going to be an album called Don't Say No. And that was all over rock stations. He did have a top 40 hit, a tune called The Stroke. I'm sure you hear it still because I think that's the only one stations will play. The song was moderately controversial, but it's actually about somebody sort of greasing the palms of someone else to get things done. And really him coming out and sort of critiquing the entire sort of payola process, which he probably got to see up close and personal in the music industry. So my hunch is that the powers that be, the supposed smart people upstairs, as Tom Petty likes to call them, they, the late Tom Petty, they like to try to cross market and do some things. And they're looking at Billy Squier, good looking guy, and they're thinking, okay, let's get him over to top 40, but we're going to have to soften his image quite a bit. And I think they overcompensated. And after that video, by the way, the song Rock Me Tonight, great song, big on rock radio. Not sure if it made the top 40. It may have broken onto top 40. Was not a huge song on top 40. But the point is, they poisoned this well of just constant greatness. This guy who came out with album after album of really excellent material. The guy's next album was called, I think it was Enough is Enough, and it flopped, sold like 300,000 copies, even though he had a duet with Freddie Mercury on there. And he had a couple of really strong songs. I think he wrote a song with Danny Korchmar called Shot of Love. And then later on in the decade, he released this album called Here and Now, which was probably close to the quality of which he started the decade with on Don't Say No. There was a song on there called Don't Say You Love Me, which was just vintage Billy Squier. And it was almost as if he had come full circle throughout the decade. But at that point, the damage had already been done. Rock stations did play his music, but reluctantly, in some cases, people were still talking about that damn video, which I just think at a certain point, okay, let's move on. But there were a lot of people that weren't willing to move on. Billy released a couple of more albums, I believe. He had, again, a song on one of the albums which was really controversial, and the title in and of itself made you think, is this what the song is really about? And then you listen to the song and you go, yeah, this is what the song's about. So the subject matter on that song, coupled with some of the stuff that happened prior with the video on MTV, and then, the 90s come along, and the wind had already been knocked out of Billy Squier's sails. But that's a guy who could have had at least 2 more decades worth of quality material that would have been radio friendly. A lot of people, they compared Billy Squier's sound to kind of like he had these big, huge riffs. I know he's been sampled a lot by many hip hop and R&B people because he used a lot of these big, huge riffs and drum beats and so forth. So he had a really great sound to sample. And Ringo Starr smartly recruited him for his all-star band. And, even in his later years, Billy Squier could still sing like he used to. A great guitarist. I actually saw him play bass for Ringo's band when they did a tune by the Average White Band, Picking Up the Pieces. I'm like, Billy Squier on bass, and he's killing it, So he's obviously a great musician and was really thrown under the bus and never recovered from Rock Me Tonight to the degree that he should have. I think he got a little bit frustrated with the business and at some point just said, screw it, hopefully I can still, live a decent life off the money I made in the 80s. But really a quality artist, and that one video should not be used to judge Billy Squier's catalog, because his catalog is amazing. Wellesley, Massachusetts boy. So when I was up in New England, everybody was rooting for Billy Squier. Tale of the Tape came out. I remember I was 15 years old, and they were playing tracks off of that. And they were talking about, this guy from Piper who, has kind of broken out on his own, and he's got so much talent and potential. And then the next year, Don't Say No came out, and we were all just like, that was one of the albums to have in 1981 was Don't Say No. If you didn't have it, you were missing out. It was just all over the place on the radio, did break on top 40. Again, the record label itself probably could have gotten Billy over to top 40 without the Prancy Dancy video. But anyway, hindsight is 2020, right? All right. So folks, again, thanks for subscribing to this channel. Patreon, $1 a month. I'm hoping that we can keep this channel up and running. If not, there is a plan B, but I'm not going to talk about that right now unless I have to. So just keep watching, keep subscribing, put it on repeat play, tell your friends. Patreon's $1 a month. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.